Welcome to episode 132. If you are new here, my name is Vee and I have an exciting announcement to make. My friend and repeat guest on the show, Adam Schneider, will be joining me as my co-host in this episode and many episodes to come. So this is the show where we interview upcomers, doers, and ballers of the real estate investing world. The purpose is to help you to reach financial freedom in real estate investing faster. So today we're going to talk about a big subject. If you are a real estate investor and you purchase a reasonable number of properties a year and you pay below market value, this will happen to you if it hasn't already. So you sign a contract with a seller to purchase their property, then at a later time, the seller backs out or they just ghost you. So join Adam and I in the next 20 minutes to listen on how we handle these situations. Hey Adam.
Hey V.
How are we doing today?
Outstanding. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. I don't know. I think sometimes I make myself busier than I should be.
Why?
I just do. That's what women do. That's what us women, we multitasking and we always just keeping ourselves super busy.
Well, congratulations, V.
Yeah. So today, what are we talking about today, Adam?
Let's talk about a situation where you're an investor buyer, you go into contract with the seller, and the seller has seller's remorse and wants to back out of the contract.
Isn't that what we're dealing with a lot right now?
I don't know if it's a lot, but it certainly happens. That's for sure.
Has that percentage increased for you in the last 2 years?
I don't know if I'd say no, I don't think it's increased, but I've become made more of a point at time of signing a contract to be really upfront about what's happening to try to get in front of that issue.
Okay. Yeah, you are a really good closer. And I say I'm not as good as you, but not too far behind. So, but I would say it happens to all of us, right? The seller signed a contract and at some point later, they may have received some better offers and decide to back out, or something happened in their life and they just decide not to sell at the time. So what do you do, Adam, when they say, well, usually they don't call you and say, I'm not selling you the house, right? They'll just ghost you.
That's exactly right. So the way I look at it is you hit on it is, what's the reason why they backed out? So I think there's really three different buckets you look at. One bucket is they just changed their mind because they have life changed suddenly. Maybe when they went under contract, they weren't thinking straight or things were happening and now that's settled. And so now they really want to stay in the house. The second bucket is they were influenced by somebody like a family member and the kids really wanted to have them keep it so they could inherit it. And they were swayed by some third party. And then the third thing that happens is that after signing the contract, they found a better offer from another investor. And so they want to back out and make more money. And so I treat those three things differently in how I approach them. But almost every single time when I go under contract, if there's something that makes me feel like there's a possibility that there's something uncomfortable there, I'll record a memorandum or an affidavit that says that I'm under contract with this. I do that through the Register of Deeds office. And so what that does is if they do ghost me and they go and find another investor and that person tries to close, when they do the search for the title work, it'll identify it's already under contract. Mm-hmm. And so that's a protective measure from that standpoint. I've had a few situations where I told them they had to talk to our closing attorney and let the closing attorney explain to them that they were under contract. And then once the closing attorney explains to them the same thing that I explained to them, then we'll move forward with it. So whenever it's a scenario where they're trying to get a better price, that's one where I really stick my heels in and stick with the contract. The trickier situation for me is the one where stereotypically it's an elderly person. Yeah. They thought they were going to move out and live with their adult children, and then the adult child's spouse doesn't want them living there. And so then if we were to go forward on this thing, then they'd be homeless or have a really tough spot. Yeah. That's one which is really much more nuanced and is a situation by situation scenario.
I know it may be a little off topic here, and that's one of the touchy subject because a lot of time when I go buy houses and I may feel like I'm talking myself out of a deal because I often ask them, where do you go? What do you do next?
Right.
And sometimes I feel like, well, they may be better off staying at the home.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And I know some states have different standard agreements in their standard agreement where there's 3 days for people to change their mind and things like that. In our state, we don't have that. So if you sign on the dotted line, that's it. You're under contract.
Oh, we don't have that in Texas either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So in Texas, and I guess same for your state, is when the seller and the buyer sign a contract to sell, buy a house, there's a lot of way for the buyer to back out, but there's almost no way for the seller to back out.
Right.
Of the deal.
And situationally, you can try to find ways to make it work for everyone. So as an example, if the issue is that seller, their alternative housing wasn't going to happen in a month, but they know they're going to get an alternative housing in the next year or two, I would probably just extend my contract for whatever that period of time is and let them stay for that really long
So
time.
what you're saying is when the seller back out and randomly, well, they'll call you and say, hey, I don't want to sell my house to you anymore. Most often they would just not answer your call or respond to you at all. So you're saying is that first you got to find out why.
Yes.
And
if
they don't answer the phone, is there any other trick that you use to find out why? This episode is brought to you by Buzz Vacation Rentals, a premier property management company in Houston and Galveston areas. Buzz Vacation Rentals specializes in managing short-term rentals the right way. Give Buzz a call at 281-549-8432 to learn more, or check out their website at listwoodbuzz.com, and that is listwoodbuzz.com. Now, back to the Real Estate Ballers show.
Well, if I can't get in touch with them, that's one of the times when I would make sure that I had something recorded.
Okay.
With the Register of Deeds. And so sometimes I've had situations where I didn't hear from these people for 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden a closing attorney, we have a closing attorney, state not a title company, do the closings. Someone from the closing attorney office would call and say that this property is under contract and they're trying to sell it, and what am I going to do about my lien on it? And then we'll have to make a decision, and that's really the business decision scenario. Yeah. I know that there's one person I talked to at our convention who said that whatever the closing date is that he was scheduled to close, even if he's been unable to get in touch with the seller, he wires the money to the closing attorney and sends a note saying, I'm ready to close, just to show that he was ready to close, so that there's no question mark about that. And then the attorney wires the money back to him. So I thought that was really interesting.
That is very interesting, because I have always done something like this where I would email and text the seller, or email the title company and the seller and say, we ready, willing, and able to close, on the closing date, just to know that I'm interested and I want to close. But I have not tried sending the wire. Maybe I can start doing that and see.
Right, maybe. So I've had that couple situations like that. I think most of the situations I've run into are the ones where they found someone else making a higher offer. Yeah. But there've been a few there that have been really touch and go, like we were talking about in the beginning, where their new life plans fell through and they really didn't have anywhere else to go. And so you have to make a decision on how you want to handle that. And I know different people have different positions on how they do that.
Do you ever let them off the contract?
I've had a couple where I've let them off the contract, but that's a pretty small minority of times. Yeah. And I think that was more earlier on. And that's what got me more into being really upfront with people before we signed the contract, to really clearly explain what was happening, that it was binding contract, to confirm that they had their next steps lined up. And then when I got better at being upfront with that, then all these goofy issues became smaller, with the exception of the people still wanting to see if some other investor gave them a higher number and thinking they could do some sneaky games.
So if it's a live situations, find out and see if you can work with it, be flexible with the situations and see if you can help them.
Right. And another alternative is you may make a decision where you decide to negotiate a termination of contract with them, because you've put, as the buyer, you put time and money into go under contract with that house. You're advertising to get the lead, all the time you spent there, the survey that maybe you just bought as an example, you're going through your due diligence or your inspection stuff and all these things. And so for them to back out, you've had cost and time and money. Maybe you had to get money lined up and so on. So maybe it's a scenario where you tell them that you're willing to let them out of the contract, but at a certain price.
I think when I find out that the seller wants to back out, I really want to know, like if they get a better offer in this scenario, if they actually got a better offer, I would try to see if that offer is legit. Because oftentimes, they can get higher offer, but that may be an offer that will never close. So I try to see if I can help the seller in that way to make sure that they have a legitimate offer. And, if I can match it, I probably would. I've done that before. And if for any reason I can't come up to it, then that's when, like you said, we negotiate a termination of contract, right? When I feel like they have a good, solid offer and that's clearly way better than mine and I cannot match it, then we'll talk about what is consideration to terminate. And I've done that too.
We had a recent situation come up where we had one of our franchise operators under contract find out that a prominent wholesaling operation in the area had put that property under contract as well. And so the franchise operator, contacted that operation to explain that she was under contract. They didn't know that there was another contract going. And so they backed out and they just walked away from it. So half the time, other parties don't even know what's going on and it's all the seller doing it. Now we have one, which is a crazy one, where I'm under contract with a seller. During the title search, we discovered that a real estate listing agent has recorded a lien with this person's property to make sure that they get paid their real estate listing commission.
Oh, wow.
They listed this property 5 years ago and nothing happened.
Wow.
So they want to make sure they get paid on their commission.
That's the first.
I had never heard that. And they've got that lien for a 40-year period of time. So you never know what's going to pop up.
Well, yeah, I haven't heard that. Yeah, I had a scenario where I found out that a wholesaler got a contract. I was under contract to purchase property. We had title issues and it was going on for a long time. Shortly later, sometime after, I received an email blast from a wholesaler on the same deal. So I called this person because this person was, kind of popular or known in the area. So I called this person. Well, long story short, this person then bypassed me and closed without title. And then owner financed the property.
Wow.
So there will be those people out there too. And I'll tell you, I don't think I'll ever do business with this investor again because I did call and, give the courtesy. But that only happened one time since I've been in real estate. So
I think you can take some legal action against that person once you've made known that you're under contract with them, but that's a state by state thing. That's what
either that or we could just move on and put our energy and effort on another deal, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's always a really good reminder because when you're the person who's stuck in something and you're in that fight and the emotions get there, it can be such an energy drain, can't it?
Yeah. So when it's a life situations, use your logic, your heart to figure out the situations, your business decision. But whenever it comes to seller find a better deal and they want to back out, negotiate, see if you can work it out or file a memorandum of contract. Now, do you have any good memorandum of contract story?
Well, my tip is to actually make sure that you do it properly. Yeah. Because someone's going to try to see anything that you do improperly and will say that it's not valid. So that's right. I've had a couple of typos here and there that I wish I hadn't had. And one time it cost me. I have some good memorandum of contract story. And so for the listener, memorandum of contract is when you have a contract to purchase the property, it's not public information. It's just between you and the seller and the title company. But when you file the memorandum, you're now letting everyone know that you have an interest to purchase the property. Am I correct on that? Correct. You let them know you have an interest to purchase, but you're not providing your actual contract. So they don't know the terms and conditions. Right. They just know that you've got that interest. Right. And so when the title company, when the seller go and sign a contract with somebody else, when the title company pull title search, they should find your memorandum of contract and they should not ignore that memorandum. Correct.
So you, at that point, if they reach out to you when they're trying to clear that item, then I think your goal is not to block it, but maybe just to get compensated or to recover financial and time lost. Is the better way to put it. Do you agree?
So again, I think that's such a situational thing. Many times I want the property. If you want the property, it's not, you don't want the money, you want the property. And then just thank them and tell that person who found it, say, no, I'm ready to buy it. I've been ready to buy it.
Have you ever ended up with the property?
Yes.
Yeah, I have gotten the property back too, and I still have that property today, and it's doing really well. So I'm so glad that I did that. There was a story recently on this memorandum of contract. I probably won't bring any big names out, but so this investor has a contract to purchase this property. The seller then sold the property to a big name national player. That national player bought that property and then listed for sale. So this investor found out about the property, that they ignore his memorandum of contract. So he reached out to this big player, national player, and said, hey, I had a memorandum. I had a contract on this property. And I think that was a very smart decision, a very smart move on the investor's part. And I think it ended up with a really big payday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in the event that the title company choose to ignore your memorandum of contract, I believe that is ground for a title suit. So you can file a title claim against the title company for your contract. And you may get a bigger payday than than settling with, the buyer seller.
Right.
At
Interesting.
That time.
That's a great story. Do you file a memorandum of contract with every deal you do?
No, I do not. I only file the memorandum when the seller ghosts me or when I've sent something. When you work with seller, you probably can start predicting a pattern of behavior. Right. And if they're starting to act a little differently, you probably know something's not right.
Yes.
And that's when I choose to file. I don't file on every contract. And sometimes if the deals is just a lot of headaches and time and very draining, I don't file it either. I probably just let the seller back out. Okay. So in summary of what to do when seller back out, do you want to do a summarize for us?
Yep. My summary is take a look at what bucket it's in, whether it's a pure business decision on their part where they found a better offer, or if it's a life situation where you'd be sort of making them homeless, or it's a situation where you think they got influenced by other people and you want to discuss it. If you're sensing that there might be something that smells rotten in Denmark, then go ahead and file your memorandum to protect your interest on it. And in a lot of these cases, you're just going to have to make a business decision that blends well with your feelings about how you want to live your life.
Totally. You nailed it. Because, I think at the end of the day, you got to be able to go to bed at night. So every business decision I make, I'm good with those, right?
Right. And you made a really good point, I think, Vee, about negative energy and how much negative energy do you want to get thrown out there because of one of these deals. Which brought me up something. Now, if you are a licensed real estate agent, but this is another game that your seller can play too, is to file a track in Texas anyway, a track complaint, which is a complaint with your real estate board. And that can get you tied up having to respond to that complaint. So just something to think about, at what point do you back away from your memorandum of contract when you do file one? Yeah. So you don't want to deal with a complaint from the board of real estate. No doubt.
All right. Well, that will conclude our conversations on what to do when the seller backed out of the contract.
Excellent topic.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching the Real Estate Baller Show. If you found value in this show, please give us a like, subscribe to us, help us spread the word by sharing this episode with a friend, or give us a shout out on social media using the hashtag REBallers. Also, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you enjoy, what you learn, what's working for you, what's not working for you. See you next time.